In this video, I'm going to go behind the scenes of this PowerPoint presentation that I created to show you how I created it. So first, I just want to show you this version, which is what I started out with. So as I said in the presentation, the first thing that I do is I go through and I put in all of my headings. And in this case, this slide is a little bit different. Under layout, you can choose different layouts. It's usually either the title slide or the title and content, but there's one called section header, which breaks this up a little bit, which I like. And then I just went through and I put in all of my content, trying to make sure that I adhered by the 6x7 rule and just put in the major key points. So the next thing that I did once I have all of my information in is the design part. So to get started with the design, go to the Design tab and pull down this arrow key on the side, and you can see all these different designs that PowerPoint offers. You can also go online and download more themes. And it's really nice, so if you hover on the different themes, it's going to show you what that would look like, gives you a little preview. And so you just go through and pick one that you like and go from there. So the one that I chose was at the very bottom here. It's this one called Urban Pop. So I chose this one, but I am really not a fan of this neon green, but that's okay. The great thing about PowerPoint is that when you pick a theme, you're really picking the layout and not the colors. So that this one had these built-in colors, but up here under colors, you can hover over the different ones and find one that appeals to you a little bit more. And let me look to see which one I chose here. So if I go to colors, let's see, perspective is the one that I chose there. So I'm going to go back to the one I'm working on under colors and go down to perspective. And so already it's a little bit better. So this is the theme that I used for my other one. In addition, you can also choose a different background style. So if you click background styles here, it has some different backgrounds that go with this color scheme but are a little bit different, okay? And I'm not sure which one I picked. Mine has a little bit of a texture. Maybe it was this one. Let me flip back again and see background style. Oh, I picked this top one here. And you can't really tell in this view, but you can tell when you go to slideshow mode that it's got a little bit, you can see it's got little dots on it, which is kind of cool. So again, looking back at my original, my finished version here, the next thing that I did is I just put in a bunch of pictures. So there's a few different places, as I mentioned in my presentation, to get pictures. And the first one is just Microsoft Office. So let's go to our working copy here and go to Insert, Clip Art. And the first picture I have is a guy with a graph. And I just want photos, just uncheck illustrations, and then search again. Sometimes it's easier to weed it down that way. Oh, here's my little guy. But if I wanted to take sales out, it's kind of hard. So what I did is I just put a text box on top of it and shaded it the right way. It took a little bit of time. Let me see if I can grab that off of here. So I have this README, which is a text box you can see over top of that. And then I also added this orange sales line. So let me put those back. Anyway, so sometimes you don't get a graphic that's perfect, but you can always modify it. And then I went back through and I put in different images. Let's see the next one. I think I added this slide from my original and asked the audience what they wanted to learn. And you can see one of the things I like to do on the images is, if you look at the first slide again, I put the same border, this dark border, and that's under Picture Tools. Under Picture Styles, you can choose different borders for all of your photos. You can make them all round, for instance. And I think I chose this one, which is sort of the medium outline there. So these photos, I think I also found mainly with Microsoft, but again, I think I mentioned in the presentation that search.creativecommons.com will allow you to find photos like this one, for instance, that has a Creative Commons license. So let me start over here, search.creativecommons.org. And let's just look up pictures for that have the word question in it from Flickr, and I'm going to hit search. So if you're looking for this great big question mark on the ground, if you're looking for something specific, it's a great place. So let's say I want to use this one. It's kind of a neat photo. If you scroll down, it says that some rights are reserved. So I'm going to click on the license, and it says that under Creative Commons I'm free to share and remix, but I just have to attribute it. So if I want to use this, I'm going to right click and click on one of these sizes, and then I can just copy this image, and I just have to say that it's by this user. So first I'm going to paste my image into, I think we need to add a slide here, and let me just paste it in there. Any questions before we get started type of slide. So there's my picture. Again, I'm going to add that same box around it. And then I need to attribute this. So I'm going to go here and pick up this thing, this username. And then I'm going to go back here. And I just need to add a little text box. So I'm going to insert a text box. And Creative Commons photo by Flickr user, and then paste this guy's name. And in this case, I think I can make this a little bit smaller. It doesn't have to be huge, you just need to attribute that. So again, in my finished version, I have a lot of photos throughout, which took me a little bit of time to find, but I think really adds some interest to this presentation. So the next slide has some of this art, and it's called Smart Art. So instead of having just a plain bulleted list, I put in some Smart Art here. So I'm going to do that here. Insert Smart Art. And it has different options for lists, processes, cycles, hierarchies, relationships, matrix, pyramid, pictures, one that includes pictures, and some from office.com, which are usually newer ones. The process is the one that I'm looking for, so I can scroll down and find the one that I think would fit what I'm talking about the best. So I think I chose this one here, so I'll choose that one again. And you end up with this sort of blank Smart Art thing, and sometimes there's a text pane, sometimes there's not. It's right up here if you need to display it. Sometimes it's easier to do the text pane, especially if you have more objects. I've got 4 and this only has 3. So I could just copy paste too, but I think I can type pretty fast. And I'm going to hit enter to get one more. So now I have my new Smart Art object here, but I still have my text box behind it. So I'm just going to click on the edge of the text box to select it, and then I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. And there's another text box here. I'm going to delete that too. So all I'm left with is this Smart Art object. Now I can move it around. I can make it a little bit bigger. And it's kind of boring, to be honest. So the next thing that I usually do with the Smart Art is to style it. When it's selected, you will see a new menu item at the top for Smart Art Tools. I'm going to click on that. And that's going to give me 2 different tabs, Design and Format. So for the design, this first you can change the colors. So there are primary theme colors, there are colorful themes, accent colors, accent 2, and accent 3. So I sort of like this colorful one, and because it's a process, I'm going to use this sort of monochromatic theme here. Then beside it there are the styles. I'm going to pull down this bottom arrow so I can see all of the styles, and again, if you hover on these styles, then you can see what they would look like. Okay, so I think this is the one that I chose before. Okay, so I think mine was all orange, but it's close. And the last part of this Smart Art object is the animation, and so I'm gonna show you how to get started with animation. I'm going to first select what I want to animate, and then there's a tab up here for animations. So I'm going to click this, and there are some animations here. There's also this Add Animation button that does the same thing. So I'm going to click this, and because I think it's a little bit easier to preview. And so if you hover on these, it'll show you what the different animations look like, okay? And there are ones for entrance. So the entrance ones mean that it does not appear and then it will come in with one of these effects, okay? So it's blank, and then you would hit swivel maybe and it would swivel in, or it's blank and you hit fly in and it flies in. The emphasis, in this case, the object, whatever it is already there. You're just adding emphasis with the animation. And finally, the exit is when you want to have something disappear after you've talked about it or whatever. And again, you can hover on these and you can see how they work. So in this case, I just want these things maybe to float in. So I'm going to hit float in here. And they're all coming in as one object. So I want to change that a little bit. I like to turn on the animation pane to really, I'm going to turn off the clip art pane so we have a little bit more room here. And the animation pane, you will have more options. You can also find some here under effect options, okay? So, but this animation pane is going to give you even more options on how to control this. First of all, it's going to start on click, and I may or may not want this. If I want it to start automatically, I could choose start with previous. Then if I hit play, you can see that it's just going to come in on its own. Now, I don't want it to come in all at once, so I need to go to the effect options. Under the effect options, there's the effect, which I'm not going to go over these right now. There's the timing, which if you need to time something, this is where you can really tweak this. But really what I'm looking for is this smart art animation. And it says group graphic is one object. If I pull this down, I can do one by one and hit OK. And then this is more what I'm looking for. And if you see when you do that, you get this little double arrow, which actually shows all of the different options. And you can see that start with previous is on there. So let me play this one more time. And I think that that looks good, and that should be pretty close to what I had in my finished version.